Hey guys, this is Robert Radifera with Pilot Imaging bringing you our very first video Lightroom tip. We're all very excited and this will be the first of many to come. Today we're going to go over how to take our photo from Lightroom directly into Photoshop, make our edits, and have that photo appear in our Lightroom catalog. All without having to export our photo from Lightroom, open it up into Photoshop, make our changes, save it, and then re-import it back into Lightroom. The tip I'm going to show you today will allow you to do this in one fell swoop very easily. But before we do that, we have to go over a few preferences. Today I'm working on a PC, and to get to our preferences, we go to Edit and Preferences. On a Mac, you're going to click Lightroom in the menu bar and choose Preferences. Once this window is opened, you want to click the External Editing tab. And here we're just going to go over a few of these options. I have Photoshop CS4 installed on my machine, so you'll see Edit in Adobe Photoshop CS4. Depending on what version of Photoshop you have installed on yours, that's what's going to show up there. We have two different file formats that Lightroom will allow us to export into Photoshop in. PSDs and TIFFs. Both of them have their pros and cons personally. I like to use PSDs. The files are a little smaller and they open a little bit quicker. Um, our color space, we could go into a whole other tutorial about color space, but just so you know, I like to use Adobe RGB. That's what I have my camera set to, and I like Lightroom to use the same color space as well. But when I do my final export, I always use sRGB because that's what we like here at the lab, um, to do a best color match. Bit depth, you have two options, 16-bit or 8-bit. 16-bit, you obviously get more color options, so let's use 16-bit. But again, when we do our export, we want to choose 8-bit when we do our export because, again, that's what we like at the lab. And for resolution 300, same reasons. That's what we do here at the lab as well. You have an option to have a second editor open up your image as well. I found this very useful when I made the upgrade from Vista to Windows 7 64-bit. Um, the 64-bit version of Photoshop was amazing, much faster. But unfortunately, some of my actions and plugins that I used with the previous versions of Photoshop did not run on the 64-bit version. But when you do install Photoshop, this version of Photoshop, it does install a 32-bit version as well. So this is actually perfect for that. Let me just quickly show you how to do that. So here on our PC, we click Choose for our application. And where our applications sit normally are on our C drive and program files. Uh, Again, if you're working on a 64-bit version of your operating system, Windows puts any 32-bit versions under program files x86. So that's where you will find those. So I will go there, and then I will go to Adobe, and I would choose Photoshop CS4. And from there, this is the application file that launches Photoshop. So this is what I would choose. On a Mac, much easier. You just go to your applications folder and choose your application that you want to be your second editor. A lot of people like to use iPhoto or something along those lines. So that's where you do that. And these other options I keep the same as the ones we had used before. And the last option here that we want to go over is our file naming. How do we want that file to be named when it opens up in Photoshop? And if you were good and read our previous Lightroom tip, this will be old hat to you. But I'll just go over quickly for all of you who did not. You're going to want to click Edit here. And when you do that, you are presented with a file naming template editor. And in this white box here, you will see that what our template could look like. I usually just delete whatever's there. You have all these options to choose from on how do you want your file to be named. I will choose file name because I like to keep my file name there and keep everything consistent. And if you look up here under the example, you can see the name of the file, what it'll look like afterwards. I went to go see Kevin Kubota years ago, and he would do presentations about renaming your files as well. And if you were to do a tweak on an image, he would always put a T after the name of that file, and that's always stuck with me ever since. So that's what I like to do here. I will end up putting a T here after the name of my file. And you will see here in the example it says image underscore 002 t.psd. So that's how it will open. But before you go ahead and click done, you want to save this preset so that it'll forever sit in your preset drop-down menu. So you click the drop-down menu, save current preset as new preset, and here you come up with some very clever name. Add some T for tweak. Very creative. Click create, and here, if we go back, you can see, here it is, add some T for tweak, and that's where it'll be, and it'll always be. We click done, we look here, and we see our example, t.psd, we're good, awesome. So now that we have all of that set, it's set, and we're good to go, and it'll be that way forever. So let's get down to business here. So, if we actually want to open this file in Photoshop, in the film strip at the very bottom of your screen, you want to right-click on your image that you want to take into Photoshop. On a Mac, you're going to want to Control-click, go to Edit In, and here are our two options for our applications that will open up our files, Photoshop CS4, and for me, this was our 32-bit version of Photoshop. But today, we're going to go ahead and use the 64-bit version of Photoshop CS4. So you choose that. That takes a moment. And here is our file in CS4. And this is a photo of my daughter during our last snowstorm. We had feet and feet of snow, and the kids are still not back at school, but one day they'll be back learning again. So here, I like to say there's an action I like to run. I want to turn this to black and white. I go to my actions window, and I choose this one, and I say, wow, that is beautiful. That is exactly what I want to keep. And this actually works well for batching a whole bunch of photos. You can tag a bunch of your photos in Lightroom. What we do at the lab is we'll put 2 stars for all of our images that we wanted to do black and white, and I recommend that for you guys to do as well if you're going to be giving us jobs to run through, and the ones that you want to be black and white. The stars for us are better than the color labels, because if you use color labels, if they're not named the same thing that we have them named, they actually don't transfer from machine to machine or from Bridge to Lightroom or other machines as well. So, but if you have all of your image starred as 2 stars that you want black and white, at the very end of your job, you can go filter through by 2 stars and only see those images, select them all, open them all up in Photoshop, run your action, and then have them all be back in Lightroom. Then you're good to go. So here's our image. We have it here. This is the important part here. Now we're going to save our image, and it's very important that we click Save and not Save As. You want Photoshop and Lightroom just to talk to each other the way that they do, and Adobe's figured all that out very nicely, so we don't want to mess with that. So we click Save. We can close our image, go back to Lightroom, and here we see our image. Beautiful. And we can still make any changes to this image afterwards, just like it was any other image. Say, we want to increase the contrast a little bit, and maybe punch up that clarity some. You do whatever you want, just like it was any other image. And if you look here, there's another quick little shortcut for you. If you hit the I button on your keyboard, you can get your information up here. And here you can see this is our file naming t.psd, and here it is. So it's beautiful. So hopefully this tip was useful to you guys and helpful. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, please do not hesitate to call us, Skype us, email us, or just stop by. We'd love to hang out. Again, it's Robert Radifero with Pilot Imaging. You guys take care. Okay, bye-bye.